Rudy Gobert gets suspended for punching Kyle Anderson. Buddy, you want to give us the briefing here?
Yeah. So Kyle Anderson and Rudy Gobert kind of jawing back and forth on the bench, and Kyle Anderson's like, "Hey, why don't you block some shots out there? Because, you know, this team gave up 5 first-round picks to do it." And Rudy Gobert's like, "How about you grab some rebounds, guard?" And then Rudy Gobert tries to punch him, and then Kyle Anderson gives him the look where, you know, sometimes you get in a fight with someone and then all of a sudden you realize you're messing with the wrong guy. He goes and takes a swing at Kyle Anderson. He just gives him the look of death. Like, he's like, "Oh, you want to fight? I am fine getting hit. I'm fine being in pain and getting punched right now. You want to go? Let's go." But you want to talk about the biggest whiff in NBA history? Rudy Gobert is useless. Rudy Gobert is a ruthless commodity. I saw like the Timberwolves trade Patrick Beverly for Rudy Gobert. I'm like, okay, you give up Patrick Beverly, another role player, and get Rudy Gobert. That's cool. I'm like, oh, you give up a first-round pick. That's weird. And I'm like, you give up another. That's weird. And then 5 first-round picks for a guy who can't do anything in the playoffs. Rudy Gobert pumps his numbers up, wins Defensive Players of the Year for sitting in the paint and blocking shots with Quinn Snyder, who was a really good coach, and he knew exactly how to maximize Rudy Gobert's talent. Minnesota Timberwolves do not have a good coach, and they do not have a guy that can maximize Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert has no offensive talent. Rudy Gobert can't score. Rudy Gobert can't shoot in a league where you can't have 5 players on the court that can't at least hit a jumper. Even Robert Williams has a little bit of a jumper, and he's a much better, I don't know, Robert Williams can defend the perimeter. He can defend the pick and roll. If the Celtics had him all series last year, it would have been a much better series versus the Bucks, for them at least. And then Rudy Gobert, you put him in a pick and roll. How many clips do we need to see of Steph Curry turning this guy inside out before we realize he's not a good defender? Being a good defender means you can switch. Being a good defender means you can go at the perimeter and contest shots on the perimeter, not look like a complete idiot when Steph Curry is dancing back and forth. Damian Lillard is torching you. This is the worst trade in NBA. Why would you give up anything for this guy? I thought they gave up Patrick Beverly. I'm like, that's pretty good. Dude. But honestly, at this point, I would have rather just kept Patrick Beverly in my 5 first-round picks.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to unpack here. If we're talking just about what just happened, he basically called him a bitch. Kyle Anderson called him a bitch. So then he swings at him and looks like an absolute moron. So the actual situation's stupid. Yeah. You're in a playoff position where you're playing in the playoff bracket. You're going to face the Lakers, who, let's be honest, had they not started still, they would not be in the playoff bracket because they've been one of the hottest teams in the West all season post having a terrible start.
Yeah.
And a player that they gave up all this capital for is out because he's an idiot and decides to punch his teammate in a game that really doesn't fully matter because you've already kind of clinched your spot in the play-in.
Yeah.
And then the Timberwolves. Oh, the Timberwolves. We talked about the Cardinals at length and how stupid they are. Let's talk about how stupid the Timberwolves are, because the Timberwolves are by far the stupidest organization in the history of the NBA. Do I need to? Yes, I do need to. I need to talk about the fact, and I know this happened 15 fucking years ago, but it's still an evidence of how stupid the Timberwolves are. You, in 2009, had the 5th and 6th overall pick. You went out and drafted 2 point guards. You drafted Johnny Flynn and Ricky Rubio. Ricky Rubio goes overseas. Johnny Flynn out of the league in 2 years. And who drafted the very next pick? Oh yeah, point guard Steph Curry. Maybe you've heard of him. Maybe you've seen, I don't know, the last decade. Maybe you've seen, I don't know, the greatest 3-point shooter in the history of the NBA.
Yeah.
So that's number one, first of all. And then outside of the 2004 Western Conference appearance, they have the worst playoff record in the history of the NBA. And even with that, they still have the worst playoff record in the history of the NBA. Now we get to modern day Minnesota Timberwolves. They have, Anthony Edwards. He's pretty solid. Karl Anthony Towns. He plays basketball. And then you have
yeah, he does.
Your missing piece. You guys are like perennial 7th seeds. Like, let's make the next big step forward. And you're like, you know what? We need somebody to bring us to that next spot. And you said, you know what? Let's give up a half decade worth of first overall picks so that we can have a guy who can block shots. What? What are we talking? If you want someone to block shots, there's a guy. He's playing in China right now. His name is Taco Fall. He cost nothing. You can literally put him in your G League. He can block shots. Or maybe here's a guy.
JaVale McGee.
You get JaVale McGee. Or here's another guy. I don't care how old he is. Dwight Howard. You know how much he cost? Nothing.
Not 5 first
How many first-round picks? I mean, we're talking about all-time stupid trades. I mean, even the Nets trade with the Celtics, they gave up 3 first-round picks that end up being Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, and Jason Tatum. That trade, which is notoriously stupid. 5? And think of the Jazz, for example. I mean, if you're going to make a trade for one of their studs, why not Donovan Mitchell, who can score?
Yeah, this is the Jazz. This is Danny Ainge.
Yeah. So it's like they got rid of, I mean, think about how the Cavs, they traded for Donovan Mitchell. They've turned out to be pretty good. They're the 4 seed. The Timberwolves, you trade half a decade's worth of first overall picks so that you can be in the play-in tournament. Like, this is the expectation. And like, it reminds me, if we're going to compare them, we're talking about Aaron Rodgers and the Jets earlier. Yeah. And it's like the expectations of certain franchises and who you're going to be facing in a couple days. The Lakers, who are a perennial championship team the last 70 years. They've won 17 titles.
Yeah.
You have LeBron James looking for his 5th title. And their expectation is, let's try to make the finals with this team. And then the Timberwolves, their expectations are, God, I hope we make it to the playoffs. God, I hope we can make our 5 first-round picks worth it. Oh, trust me, you won't. Because that guy that you traded half a decade, I need to preface, half a decade. By the time that they have a first-round pick again, it will be 2030. 2030. Think about that. We're going to have not 1 president, not 2, 3 elections in that time frame.
Yeah.
Good Lord. So best of luck. I can't wait for you guys to lose to the Lakers and the Pelicans. We're going to get into our seedings in a second, but like, you're talking about the most pathetic franchise, arguably in the history of professional sports.